Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to another week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, and we are glad to be back for another week. David Gaggin is going to be here momentarily. He is struggling to get into StreamYard right now, but we are hopeful to get this going for tonight. And we want to say hello to each and every one of you. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position, Laura Lobbs with a silver, Michael Morris with a nice solid bronze medal tonight. Very much appreciate that. And hello, Robert Lamothe at Area 51, Les Paul Holland, Jimmy Gonzalez, Roy Boy, Angel Song, welcome to SOR chat. And Toe Tag, thanks for coming on in. Toe Tag will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Long Island Bigfoot, good to see you. Paris Solo, our favorite Marine Black Dragon, thank you for your service. And Brown Dwarf, good to see you all. Lee the Bee, thank you for coming on in. Human Carl, another great veteran of the United States Air Force, thank you for your service. Hello, Jenny White Bear, how are you? As we scroll on down and see Paramarv, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you back. All right, Jessica S., thank you for coming on in. And who else do we have here? W. David Page, Major Lee, thank you for joining us. T-Bone, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Mary R., welcome back. Mary will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Hold on. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Gotcha. We got you now. Okay.
Outstanding.
You just sit tight, okay? You sit tight. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. All right. I still see you, Dave, so don't worry about that. I got you just in the green room. 5DRG, nice to have you here. And who else do we have in the chat room? Justin Hemmingson, thank you for joining us. And just another guy named Harry, Eternity Eternal, welcome back. And Badass Billy Gunn, good to see you. Buckethead, what's happening, my man? And D. Cohen, Rex Goodrum, Corey, Digger Dog, Mama Catherine. Mwah! Thank you for your lovely text messages this morning. I love it. Vanessa, thank you for joining us. Welsh Hammer, Nikki in Seattle. Lane Lair, welcome to SOR chat from the Ozarks. Good to have you here. Hello, Monica, Nina Williams. Thank you for joining us. Bobo, good to see you, my man. And Lightwalkers, good to have you back. Chillgasm, Skip to Malou, and Boletium, my man. Thank you for coming on in. Thomas Rock, Joey Haynes, good to see you both. Forrest Louie, my man, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. You are wonderful. You are loyal to the cause, my friend, and we very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Moon Freedom, thank you for coming on in. And who else do we have here? We have Pam Harris and Monica. Noble Patrick, good to see you back. Maggie M10, thank you for joining us. Hello, Philip Baca. And Mentira, welcome back. Scrolling on down. We're caught up. Look at that. All right, let's get the radio side going. All right, we welcome in everybody listening in on the podcast side and radio side of Spaced Out Radio, including Bill WD-40, who is lubing us up for tonight's show, as we appreciate all of you tuning us on into Spaced Out Radio. Our guest, David Gaggin, is here. The Super Chat is open on the website. Don't forget, you can go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and you can check us on out, get some nice swag. Hey, people, we do not have ugly swag here. We do not. All right? So go get some. You're going to want to wear some. Also, put on your calendar, May 10th through 12th, 2024, we have the next edition of the SOR fan party in Reno, Nevada, the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort. Do me a favor, everybody. Throw up them horns. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show of information coming up to you momentarily, as we are going to be joined by author David V. Gaggin about what it's like to live through eternity. Oh, it's going to be a good one tonight. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton joins us with another spooky story. And I'm going to introduce you to Courtney Marcassani. She is going to be our fill-in for Tim Senor on the UFO Report. You're going to absolutely love her. You will, I promise. Throughout his life, David Gaggin spent his free time in an exhaustive search for the most plausible answers he could find to the classic questions regarding our existence. Who are we? Is there a God? Why is the cosmos here? How shall we live our life? What is important? Like most of us, for years, David was confused by life's illusions, but after an exhaustive search through religious texts, ancient Eastern and Western history, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and paranormal experiences, he found that the truth is available to anyone committed to search for it. Ooh, doesn't this sound a little cheeky? I think it does. I'm looking forward to it. And his book, which can be found at davidgaggin.com, that we are searching for right now, is Our Eternal Existence. So make sure you add that one to your library. David Gaggin, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. A pleasure to have you here, my friend. How are you?
Thanks, Dave. I'm great, and it's great to be here.
Well, you know what? We are covering a very big subject tonight because there are really only two major questions that involve humanity. Number one, why are we here? And number two, is there life out there? And these are two questions that you are tackling, one of them pretty hard, at least, with your brand new book that you have out called Our Eternal Existence, a Metaphysical Perspective of Reality. And I'm very curious to see what, after everything you have gone through in life and experienced in life, why do you want to tackle this subject?
Dave, this has been my my search since I was probably a teenager, and I became an engineer because I had to make a living. But I've always wanted to know what's going on. Why am I here? Who am I? And where is here? And what's our purpose? So, I tackle it now because I've retired, and I've had more time to continue to search, and found some interesting answers that I thought I'd share with people.
So I got to tell you this, and I've said this a few times on this show. The thought of death absolutely fears me. The reason why is this. I come from a creationist family. I'm not religious, but I still have a strong belief that there is something out there that makes us continue. But it's that small inkling, David, of what if there is no afterlife? What if the Bible is wrong? What if all religious script is wrong? What if the ghosts are our imagination and Darwin was right that we come from dust and we end back in dust? And that freaks the hell out of me, my friend. Absolutely freaks me out to the point where I have anxiety attacks over it, believe it or not.
Hmm. Well, I can understand your concern, but if you look and if you search, there is really only one reasonable conclusion that you can come to, and it's that indeed there is life after death. Everything points that direction. Everything. But you have to search for it, Dave. And nobody can convince you that that's the answer. You have to convince yourself.
So what convinced you that there is something more out there, whether it's God, whether it's just, what people call source, maybe it's aliens, whatever it may be? What convinced you that this short time we have on Earth is really just for the physical body and not the metaphysical soul?
It was a process. I, of course, grew up in the science community, and was raised an Episcopalian. So I was taught, for one, that reincarnation doesn't exist, and that was ingrained into me until I read a book by Dr. Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters, and this was many years ago. He wrote the book in, I think, 1988. And I looked at it and I thought, boy, there's something here. I'm not sure I'm convinced, but there is something here. And then the more I looked, the more I searched, the more near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences that I read about, the more channeling that I ran into, the more it pointed in one direction. This couldn't possibly be an accident. This life, we've got, the science tells us we got a Big Bang theory, and the Big Bang theory says this was all just potluck, and everything that happened is just a coincidence. Well, it's inconceivable that it's a coincidence. Not, you look around, and everything that exists couldn't just have happened all on its own. Somebody, some mind had to be behind it.
And that is a very human answer. And I agree with you on that. I think you're bang on with that. I do. But there's a lot, including many scientists out there, who would argue the difference, that saying like the planet isn't 6,000 years old; it's millions upon millions, if not billions of years old. And carbon dating has been able to do that. How do you take on that argument?
Well, I think I certainly don't follow the religions. I think it is very old. How old it is, I really don't have a clue. If somebody tells me it's 5 billion years old, what am I going to say? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's old. I don't think religion really gives you the answer if you take the full religion. I think the religious texts are interesting, I think the pot has been stirred by people with other motivations along the way. I think the Bible has good information in it, but I think there's a lot in there that is questionable at best. And I think all of the religions, I think Hinduism, I don't know if you've ever read some of those old texts, the Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas and such. Very interesting things that have been written. I don't know. They say 5,000 years ago, but I think there was a lot of oral tradition before that. If you look at all of the different major religions, I think they offer something of value, but I think you've got to be very careful with every one of them, because there's other motivations involved. You have to get your information from multiple sources. Religion's only one, science is only one. I mean, science has got all kinds of trouble with their quantum mechanics and relativity, trying to figure out how that works and why that makes sense. So, and the trouble with science is is a very, very new subject. It's probably been around, maybe 300 years at best. I mean, there was some engineering before then, but most of science has been around for, probably 50, 100 years. And if you looked at it, it's in its infancy. And what science is going to tell us in 100 years or 1,000 years or 10,000 years, going to be a totally different story than what it's telling us today.
So to mainstream it, where do we have it right and where do we have it wrong when it comes to understanding eternity?
I think the mainstream science has it wrong right from the beginning. I think when it says it's potluck and that was it, everything's an accident, I'd say right from the beginning, mainstream science is just plain wrong. I think religion's a lot closer when they say there's a spirituality behind it. But the trouble with religion, as I mentioned earlier, is that you have a lot of people that have other motivations besides searching for truth. They're trying to get a lot of them are just trying to make money and have power, and they have for years and years, and they're struggling now with that concept. But it's the mainstream science. I think the big problem is saying, hey, the physical world is all there is. And as a result, they can't explain hardly anything when it comes to paranormal activities and such like that. None of that is explainable with science, and even their quantum mechanics is not explainable with science. Their duality, you can explain it with metaphysics, but you can't explain it with science yet. Science will get there, but it's going to take a while.
When we look at, say, the religious side of everything, I'm a firm believer that, spirituality is one thing and religion is man-made. The texts may be the same, but look how many different interpretations we've had from people over the decades via what the Bible is. Okay. It's a very controversial subject, to say the least. So where, biblically speaking, does this come into play about proving eternal existence?
I don't think religion does prove eternal existence. I think there is eternal existence, but I don't think religion proves it. Religion's based on faith, and faith is a hard thing to have, especially for me. You have to, you can fool other people on other things, but when you're trying to convince yourself what's going on, you need more than faith. You need to look at the situation, all the data, and say what makes the most sense. And if it all points in one direction, then that's the way you go. it's really no different than engineering. You go and you say, okay, you have a problem, and you look at whatever your solutions are, potential solutions, and you say, what makes the most sense, and you go with it. And that's the way you have to approach your view of eternity, spirituality, metaphysics. Metaphysics and spirituality, I put them in the same bracket. I think they're the same thing. Basically, it's trying to look at a bigger piece of reality. ESP has to fit in. Science, they don't want to consider ESP, but if you're gonna look at the whole problem, you gotta put all the pieces in there.
How many different pieces did you look at to come to your own conclusions, which we will get into a little bit later on in the show?
Dave, I couldn't count them. I honestly couldn't count them. I had so many different ones. Yeah, I mean, near-death experiences was a very interesting one for me. There's, obviously out-of-body experiences I found fascinating. I found a lot of the channeled information from the entity Michael and with Jane Roberts through Seth. Obviously, all of the old text, I found that the philosophy, the farther back you went on both Eastern and Western philosophy, the more accurate it seemed to be. We seemed to lose our way somewhere along the line. And that all makes sense. So the psychology makes sense. And in all honesty, a lot of the science makes sense. Metaphysics explains quantum theory better than science does. So it's everything that I looked at all added up. I honestly couldn't count them.
How fun was the journey?
I loved it.
Was it stressful?
I'll tell you, when I first started to look, I didn't know what I'd find. And that part was a little stressful because to me, I've been working on this for well over 50 years. And to me, I'd get bits and pieces along the way. And sometimes it looked like a good story, and sometimes it looked like it might not be a good story. So I'd say there was a little bit of stress until it started to come together. Just wondering, what the heck was it? What was I going to find? What was the answer going to be? And that, yeah, I'll say that was a little stressful, not terribly, because I was working and busy as could be during my career. But there was a little stress to it.
Okay, so at first, what were the first questions that you had that you wanted to try and solve? Because it always starts with one question.
Well, I wanted to, I wanted to know, was religion right? And when I was in, I'd say, 13, maybe 14, I remember sitting in the church, looking around at the stained glass windows and hearing the rhetoric from the minister. And I remember thinking, I don't know what the right answer is, but this isn't it. And I think I just wanted to find out what the right answer was. There were so many questions. I started out with religion because that's what I was brought up in. And it didn't take long for me to finally say, this is not going to work. It has to be something else. I didn't know what that something else was, but I think the very beginning was, it was looking at religion and saying, I'm not buying it.
Okay, so once you got through the religious side, how do you switch over to metaphysics, or what we would label as the woo side over here? Getting into channeling, getting into paranormal, getting into the idea of people who've experienced near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences?
I started with science, religion and science was easy because that's what I was trained in. I went to religion, looked at them all, couldn't see an answer there. Then I went to Eastern and Western philosophy and history, and I started getting some interesting clues there. And then I went to psychology, and that started to become very interesting. And that's where you had hypnotic regression, and that which is Brian Weiss, and then I slowly started looking at the ESP side of it. I said, well, if that's, if hypnotic regression is true, and what I did is, I read a number of books on hypnotic regression, and then I'm thinking, well, all these guys are trying to make money with these books. I wonder what the guys that are just doing the psychiatrists that are just doing this for a living are finding. So I went and interviewed these guys, and they said, "Oh, we find the same stuff. All those books says we're finding that, and with many of our patients, we're able to go back into their past lives." So I'm beginning to think, well, these guys aren't trying to make money. I mean, they're psychologists, but they don't have to tell me anything. And when they started backing this stuff up, then I started looking farther and farther, and in other areas.
How many different trails did you have to go down to make it possible for this book?
Wow. A lifetime of them. I looked at so many places, and I read so many things. I mean, this is what I did. I traveled a lot, and I had, many hours in hotel rooms and airports and airplanes. And, I spent my spare time doing this, going down one trail after another to see if I could figure out what was going on. And then I had a radio show. As I told you, about 10 years ago, I had a radio show, which I called the Common Sense Spirituality Show. And I had these fabulous guests on that gave me other information, to places to look, people to talk to. And it's that many places. It's hard to say.
More importantly, with a minute to go here, what did you learn about yourself going on this journey?
I learned that I was far greater than I appeared to be, as is everybody. There was so much more to me than what I see here. It's staggering who we really are, what we really are, why we're here, and what our purpose is.
It's a lot of faith in yourself.
It's a lot of faith in everybody on the planet.
Hey, we haven't blown each other up yet.
No, not yet. But even if we do, we'll just appear somewhere else, and we'll all have learned a big lesson.
Well, we can only hope. We can only hope, my friend. David, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour, a quick first half hour on Spaced Out Radio tonight with author David V. Gaggin. DavidGaggin.com is his website, where you can find his brand new book called Our Eternal Existence, a Metaphysical Perspective of Reality. Oh, isn't that just a power title right there? We're going to get into it. What is death like? When we return on Spaced Out Radio. I don't know. I haven't died. Some of you have and came back. We're going to learn more about it when we return on the Mighty SOR right after this. All right, we are clear. Don't forget our YouTube channel can hear. But what a lovely start to this show, man. Great start. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a fascinating topic, as far as I'm concerned.
You having fun so far?
I am. I always enjoy these, Dave.
Don't blame you. I don't blame you. They are fun.
They are pushing the limits of what we know.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
How often do you do this show, Dave?
5 nights a week.
Wow. What town are you in?
I live in a small community called 100 Mile House.
Okay.
It is a tiny community of 2,000 people, and we don't even have a McDonald's.
Oh, you are small. I didn't know it
Yep.
existed any place that didn't have a McDonald's.
Trust me, it sucks. It sucks.
How's your weather there?
Unseasonably warm.
Is it?
Yeah. Last week we dipped into the cold, but it warmed up this week. Supposed to be warm this week, and then hopefully it starts dropping. But it's really moderate right now.
Okay. You get a lot of snow up there, or are you in one of those little valleys that?
Oh no, we get snow.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for it, because when the snow falls, it does not leave until April.
I believe that. I believe that.
So it'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good. I don't mind it.
Well, I used to live in Boston, and then when I retired, I said enough is enough, and I'm in Florida these days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now you just got hurricanes to deal with.
Well, I had a hurricane. I live on Sanibel, little island that got run over by Hurricane Ian a year ago in September. So we've been putting everything back together again. I had 3 feet of water in my house.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's a fine mess.
Where do you evacuate to in that situation?
We're one of the few people that actually evacuated to a flood zone. So I got off the island, but we still had about a couple of feet of water on the street that I really didn't expect it to be that bad. Everybody on the street lost their car except mine, because I have an SUV that has just a little bit bigger tires. I think I got away with another inch or two, and I saved it. But you're supposed to go well inland or up, but it's very hard to tell because you don't know where the hurricane's going. So it can be challenging evacuating. Your best bet is to live up north during hurricane season. I don't anymore. I used to.
See, we do have to dodge forest fire season here. We got
okay.
you
can't go somewhere without having nature hanging over your head. I don't think there's any place you can go. There's always going to be something.
True that. True that. True that. Let's see here. No, it's not supposed to snow until Friday, I believe. Friday, and then Saturday we get a reprieve. Sunday, let's see here. Oh shoot, hit the wrong button. Sunday is a mixture of everything. So, there's only a 40% chance of snow.
Do you do anything in the snow? Do you ski or?
I used to ski, but my knees are too shot now.
Got it.
Ski. I loved skiing, but just like everything else, I did it way too hard.
Yeah.
And now that you're 50, you pay for it, right?
You do.
And so, what I don't snowmobile. I just haven't got into that. Sometimes I ice fish. Most of the time, if I am outside in the snow, I I like to go to the lakes that are frozen and go play some hockey.
Oh, okay.
That's always fun.
Yeah, it's a little tough on the knees though, too.
Yeah, but it's much better. Hold on a second here. We got 5 seconds. Thank you, Louie, Jennifer, and Kira for the super chats. And here we go. Hello and welcome to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate burning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind everybody that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join me on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. Here we go, second half hour with author David Gaggin. He's got a brand new book out called Our Eternal Existence, a Metaphysical Perspective of Reality. And we're going to get deep into this tonight. So, David, welcome back. And I'm going to fire the first big question off to you right off the bat. I'm swinging for the fences here. What is death?
What is death? Death is just a transition to another plane, another field, if you will, the astral field. It's just basically changing your focus from the physical world to the astral world. That's fundamentally what death is. We're here on this planet. We're eternal beings, spirits, if you will, having a physical experience. So our consciousness, our body, or part of our consciousness, I should say, and our body are here in the physical world. But the rest of us, and there's a lot left of us, of our consciousness, is in the physical, is in the astral plane, and all we do is return to it. That's all death is.
So how come we can't remember our previous lives?
Because if we did, it would be a total disaster for us. We work with the same individuals life after life. And sometimes they're our parents, sometimes they're our kids, sometimes they're our friends, sometimes they're our antagonists. It would be a total disaster if you were able to remember other people. And also, if you knew we're here to learn, and if you knew all the answers right from the beginning, you couldn't experience and learn what you want to learn.
So what are we trying to learn through all of this?
We're evolving our consciousness, and we have numerous purposes. There are some major purposes that everybody has. In other words, understanding one of them is understanding our individual nature, because consciousness has a dual nature. And one of them is a web-like consciousness, and the other is individual. Well, we never lose our individual, even when we have even when we're in a more of a web-like condition. It's no different than quantum physics, where they tell you, this is mainstream science, says that a particle has a dual nature, and one of the natures is as a particle, and we'll talk about electron. Electron can be a particle or a wave, and it's hard to believe that an electron can be a wave, but it can. And so can light. Light can be a photon, or it can be a ray. Well, we have the same nature. So we have an individual nature and a web-like nature. When we're normally in the universal consciousness, or Tao, or whatever you want to call it, we experience our web-like nature more than we do our individual. Well, here, one of our major focuses is the individual nature that we have. Another is responsibility. We're learning that if you're an individual, you have personal responsibility, and you have to learn how to handle that. And that's what we're doing. We make decisions, and if we make a bad decision, we suffer for it. So it's teaching us to make the right decisions. There's a number of different things that we're here for, but as a general purpose, there are several general things that we're trying to learn. As an individual, there's many particular things, and each individual has their own set of purposes for in each life.
Okay, so once we are done all of these lessons, what are we supposed to learn? Where do we go when we've graduated from Life High School?
It's an eternal process. Once you learn enough about yourself in this physical world, maybe you want to go and run a star. Maybe you want to go somewhere else and do something else. There's an infinite number of things that you can do. Now, the learning process takes a long time. There's a lot to learn. So we go through these cycles, and we cycle through the various spiritual portions of the of the universe. And the universe has 7 different fields, 6 of which we cycle through. The physical field is the first one, and by far the most difficult. And then we go to the astral plane, the astral field, if you will, and that's where we are when we're not incarnating. When we're done our series of incarnations, then we'll go off to the we'll leave the astral plane, we'll go to the causal plane, and then we'll move on to the mental plane, the messianic plane, and the Buddhaic plane, and then you go back into the Tao, into the psychological realm, and then decide if you want to do it again or you want to do something else.
Wow. Okay. And so you are a believer in reincarnation then?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it took me 10 years from the time I read Brian Weiss's book till I finally said, this is the only way it can be. 10 years before I could convince myself that that had to be the way.
So you mentioned it would be dangerous to remember previous lives.
It would be difficult. It wouldn't be dangerous. It would be difficult to have the experiences that you wanted if you had more information and you saw the people that you'd worked with before in another role. You just couldn't have the experience.
So when we reincarnate then, after death, do we get to choose what we want to be when we come back? Like, say I wanted to be a beautiful purple butterfly, or a great white shark, or a camel. Pardon me. Could I do that?
No, you've done that. You've already been there, and you've moved on to us. You have a sentient soul, which means that you have reason and intelligence, and so you can't be a butterfly anymore. You can experience what it's like to be a butterfly, but you can't come down here, and you wouldn't want to come down here to be a butterfly or a camel, because you've done that. You've evolved past that. You could be a dolphin or a whale, a sentient being that they are, the cetaceans are. But once you decide in each one of these cycles, as I just mentioned, we cycle through all of these realms. Once you've picked a certain path, you stick with it. In other words, you'll stick with humanity until you're done this cycle. And then you'll go around and you'll probably, you'll go to some other planet. You won't come back to this planet because you'll want different experiences, but you'll probably stay on this planet, probably most, for your entire physical cycle here. And then when you get back to the town, you say, okay, what am I going to do? You can pick something else, but you would never pick a camel, for example. You wouldn't go back. You'd go for something that was more challenging.
Okay, so what about if I wanted to be an extraterrestrial?
Easy, piece of cake.
You say it's a piece of cake. Explain that to me, who has no understanding of that.
If you would, because what you would do is you would go and you'd pick another planet, because you wouldn't come back to Earth. And by definition, if you're on another planet, you're an extraterrestrial. So you're going to be an extraterrestrial on your next cycle. And you were. It's highly unlikely that this is your first cycle. You've probably had at least a half a dozen and maybe a dozen previous cycles. So on every one of those, you were undoubtedly on another planet, because you wouldn't want the same experiences. You want to have your soul wants to have as many experiences as they possibly can. So you'd want different experiences. So you would be an extraterrestrial. You might not be in one of the UFOs that's buzzing around here, but you could be.
Wow. See, that's what I want. I want to go somewhere where I can fly the ship and go travel the cosmos. If I want to, take a date to the moon and back, I can do that. That's what I would like to do.
I'll tell you, Dave, when you die, before you come back, you can travel around the universe all you want. You can go visit other cultures. It's very easy moving around once you're off of this difficult space-time area, and you until you decide to come back, you can do whatever you want to do. And that's one of the things people like to do, travel around. What else is going on?
So you get to choose your time on when you want to reincarnate?
Absolutely.
See, for me, I'm not sure if I believe that, because I know there's a very passionate video out there on YouTube about reincarnation after 9/11, where a couple of years after 9/11, children started being born and having recollections and recalling their past lives of dying on that tragic day.
Yeah. I'll tell you, most of the time, it's going to be a while before you come back. Again, you get to choose it. And that's one of the problems with Hinduism. They tell you, well, whatever your last thought was what you're going to have when you reincarnate. And that is basically nonsense. You choose when you want to come back, because you have to plan your life. These lives that we live are extremely well planned out, and so you wouldn't. It's a very small period of time. When you think about it, might take you 500,000 years to cycle through all of these spiritual planes in a single cycle, and you might only be alive on this planet for 4,000-5,000 years. So you have to make the most of them. So you have to do a great deal of planning. So the people that come back really quickly are the ones that left too early. They didn't get done what they wanted to do. And so they have, they come back very quickly and try to pick up where they left off. But it's not wise to come back so quickly. I mean, you can. I mean, it's you can do what you want to do. You're running your evolution. You get a lot of advice from very highly intelligent spirits that have nothing but your best interest at heart. But ultimately, you can decide. It's your choice. And if you want to come back real quick, you can. And that's one of the things Ian Stevenson, I don't know if you remember him. I mentioned him in Our Eternal Existence. He was the head of psychology at the University of Virginia. And he did a great deal of studying into kids that remembered their past lives. And they remembered them until they were usually 4 or 5. They'd be remembering a past life where they lived at, near relatively nearby, and the parents eventually would take them to the village that they knew, and they were able to identify the house and go in and identify the people and convince the people that yes, indeed, they were their their deceased father or brother or whoever, who ended up dying not all that long before the child was born. And it's interesting, by the age of a teenager, they'd virtually all forgot that their past life, but they remembered it when they were a small child. But these people died usually early and didn't really finish what they were trying to do or what they felt they needed to do in this life.
Okay. When you're signing up for your next life, how do you even choose that? Because there's a lot of garbage that goes on, okay, out there. And I personally can't see myself or anybody that I know signing up to be abused physically or sexually by their parents, or to be abandoned, or to live in an area where there's extreme poverty and no running water and uh, bugs that eat out of your eyeballs, okay, like they do in Africa. I don't see anybody signing up for that in a reincarnation.
Yeah, they can either be the much younger souls that are just trying to get their feet wet on learning how to live on this planet, or they can be very advanced souls that want to have unusual experiences. So it's it can be somewhere in the middle, but your soul is the one that makes the difference. What you're looking at and what you experience is the personality, and that's a small piece of your actual self. Your mind and consciousness is so much greater than the ego that you see the world through. So there's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different things that they want to learn, and they do. People, and I'll tell you, you rotate through, and I can almost guarantee you that at some time or another you've had some difficult lives. They might be karmic lives. I mean, some of these people. I mean, my last life, I was a karmic life, and I was a Japanese soldier that got blown away.
Wow. So, how does karma play into this?
Well, karma. If you as an individual on the planet keep somebody else from having their own free will. We have free will. We can do anything we want. We have a plan, but then we forget the plan. So, but our inner self doesn't forget the plan. Inner self guides us, but all they can do is guide us. It's our choice, the ego's choice at what it does. And if the ego decides to make a bad decision and cut somebody else off from having free will, they've got to pay them back all the energy that they put into that effort. And the energy, it includes not just the energy they spent on the physical planet, but also all the planning and all the effort that went in to trying to create a life that they wanted to live. So that's how karma comes into play. You get a karmic ribbon that ties you to that other person, and you have to pay back that energy to them.
Okay, that's deep and interesting, to say the least. As we talk to author David Gaggin tonight on Spaced Out Radio, his book, Our Eternal Existence, A Metaphysical Perspective of Reality. So where do the conditions that man or women, humankind, have kind of brushed off, psychic ability, ESP, where do these come into play if we all have those abilities?
Yeah, you do. What they are is our inner sense. We have 5 outer senses, and that's what creates the reality. And so what we have, we sense the energy around us, but you have to sense it in a certain way to create your reality. So our 5 senses, right? The eyes, the nose, the ears, the touch, the taste. It all paints a picture for us, and that picture is what our what we sense and what we think is our reality. But when you die, you don't have your eyes, and you don't have your nose, and you don't have your ears, but you still experience the astral plane, and quite frankly can experience see this physical plane as well. And that's because we have an inner sense. And the inner sense is a fascinating device where telepathy is your prime mode of communication, but you have a number of different capabilities. I mentioned, I think, about 9 of them in Our Eternal Existence. And it shows you what we can be. What's happening with your ESP and a lot of your paranormal activity is because those senses on some people are more developed than others. The more conscious that you become as you evolve, the better you'll be able to use that inner sense. But most of that inner sense is cut off because it gets drowned out by our physical senses. And that's what it's designed to do, so we can have these experiences.
Why do most of us why do most of us forget the ability to unlock these?
Because they're more sophisticated, and we're supposed to forget them. There's our ego, which is the part of our consciousness that controls our life, that is bombarded by our physical senses. So it's not that we don't have those capabilities, but some people have them more developed than others. But most of us don't have them developed because we're not supposed to. We're supposed to experience the physical field. So it's the way it's designed. As you evolve and as you keep coming back, some of those senses, you're able to have more sophisticated ego, and you also get a chance to work on your ESP senses. But we all have them.
How did you tune into yours?
I don't have nearly as strong as ones as many other people do. My wife died 6 years ago, and my youngest daughter, can communicate with her. My oldest daughter cannot. And when I want to communicate with her, I go to a medium. And it's extremely easy to determine if you're actually communicating with the person that you think you are. You can expect a spouse, a parent, a child, a close friend, very easy. You don't tell the medium anything except your name, their name, and your relationship, and that's it. The person that died will want to talk to you. They will want to communicate with you. So that person will say things that only you and that person know. I was married to my wife for 50 years. And when I talked to her, first, she talked to my...
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Communication with your wife. David Gaggin, author of a great book called Our Eternal Existence, Metaphysical Perspective of Reality, can be found on his website, davidgaggin.com. We'll be back with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. Wonderful hour. Fast hour.
It did go fast. I agree. But
Totally.
it's an interesting topic. I tell you, I lay it all out in this Our Eternal Existence, and and I take you right from the beginning, which is I try to tell you about the universe and so on and so forth, and then I get into the human condition and work my way up through the evolution, where we go through the reincarnation and those other things, and then I get into the power of the beliefs, which is that's all we are, Dave. We're a mind, and a mind has two products: thoughts and emotion. That's it.
Beauty.
And so that's what we're trying to understand about ourselves.
I'm going to take a quick break here.
Okay.
We got about 4.5 minutes. I'm going to put you back in the green room, and I'll be right back. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. There we go. You're in the green room. I'll be right back. these back on. I want to say a big thank you to Kira, Jennifer, and Louie for the great super chats. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. High Operation Shutdown. Maggie, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciate your love, Maggie. Thank you. Who else has joined us here? Mama Susan, how you doing? Good to see you. Atlantis is found. Welcome back to SOR Chat. Brian Dodd, welcome to SOR Chat. Let's see. Who else? Hi, Renee. And Rexamillions, welcome back, dude. All right, we bring in David here. And we got about 10 seconds. Reminder to everybody, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. We got clothes that you actually want to wear. Here comes hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Railophone. Railophone is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go with author David Gaggin tonight. We're talking about his book, Our Eternal Existence, Metaphysical Perspective of Reality, and some of the stories that the knowledge he has gained through doing this book has been absolutely amazing. You can find it at davidgaggin.com. David, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm telling you, the audience in the chat room tonight on YouTube is absolutely loving you tonight. So that's always a good sign.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. You were telling a story right before the break regarding I believe your deceased wife.
Right. Let me start out by saying that if you want to convince yourself that there's life after death, the easiest way to do it is to go get in touch with somebody who's died. And it's incredibly simple. What you do is you go to them, you find a medium, you go tell them your name, the person that you want to contact, and the relationship. That's all you say. That's it. And then the person will show up because they want to talk to you. And it's easy for them to know that you want to talk to them because they keep an eye on you, and especially if you're a close relationship. But all you have to do is project your thoughts, and you can, they'll understand and they'll hear it through a telepathic situation. Anyway, what you do is the person knows that you need to be convinced that it's them. So they will say things to you, to the medium that will be relayed to you, that could only come from the deceased person. When my daughter, you can't talk to them until they've died, and they're pretty busy for about 3 or 4 months, and then you can get in touch with them, and they'll say things. My daughter went about a week before I did to this medium. My 2 daughters went, and they came back to me and they said, "Dad, it was all about you. Mom told us all this stuff about you and what she wanted you to know." And my kids didn't have a clue of most everything that they relayed to me, because it was between my wife and I. And when you're married for any period of time, reasonably long period of time, you have things that is really nobody else's business, and nobody else would really care. But there are things that only you two communicate with, and when that's relayed to you, that that's the person. If you wanted to go talk to George Washington, for example, you would have no idea if it was George Washington on the other end or not. But if it's somebody personal, then you can do it. But what you first have to do is you have to go find somebody that will do that for you if you don't have the personal skills. And if indeed you find somebody and they do not tell you these personal things, go find somebody else, because they're not a real medium.
Yeah, there are a lot of shysters you have to be careful of out there.
Right.
That is completely for sure. I mean, as I've said on this show before, the one thing that I always love about a lot of psychic people is they're very quick to predict the negative, but to predict the positive is only 6, 8, 10, 12 months away. And you wait that timeline and it never, ever arrives. That's my complaint with the psychics out there. Change the system, people. Change the system. How do you know that you are actually communicating with your loved one? Because we're always told that when you try and communicate with the other side, there's a lot of tricksters over there who can, try and be your grandmother or your child or your spouse.
If you know the person really well, it's easy to determine it, because they will want to communicate with you, especially relatively soon after they've died, but even earlier, but especially right after they've died, they want to tell you things, and so they will say things that you will know is them. They will use phrases. They will talk about instances. They'll talk about things that the medium couldn't possibly know. So it's not hard to convince yourself that you're talking to, in my case, my wife, but my father and mother showed up unexpectedly after. Oh, I think it was the second or third time I was talking to my wife. They came, and they said things. My father, in particular, said things. I know it was him, because it was something that was between he and I. Now, you can convince yourself. It's the easiest way to absolutely convince yourself that death is really just a step into another state.
I hear you. I hear you there. Okay. Before we get some audience questions here, I do want to ask you, in regards to your book, about seeing yourself in a new light. How can you improve your life over reading this book and really taking advantage of every breath that you have?
I think the biggest thing that you'll get out of this book is to realize that you control your life, and it's your beliefs and your expectations that is actually manifesting the life you're living. And we don't realize that, because there's a pretty good sized delay because of the space-time dimensions that we're in. But you are responsible, and you get what you think about. If you, for example, focus on fear, and you're say your parents died of cancer, and you're saying, well, geez, I hope I don't get cancer. And then what do? Every time a commercial comes on and they said, well, if you got a bad cough, you got cancer. So you think about all this stuff all the time. You read these articles. Well, all you're doing is attracting it to you. So what you need to realize is that it's your decisions that are causing the life that you're living. There's no such thing as a victim. Victims don't exist. It's the decisions that you've made. Some might have been karmic from past lives, but in general, it's the decisions that you're making now because your beliefs are such that you're making assumptions that aren't true, and you're causing the problems. And you don't have to do that. And the other thing you can do, I explain in the book how, it's almost impossible to determine what your dreams mean. A lot of people do it, and it's a lot of fun to do it, I guess, for some people. But you can control your dreams. You can get your dreams to solve your problems, because your dreams are run by your inner self, your inner consciousness, and it will solve your problems if you go about it right. So there's a lot of things that you can get out of the book by just understanding the reality that you're in.
How do you take that as a positive, though, knowing that every day you're closer to death?
But death is a nothing. And what you'll find, you talk to these people who died, they're having a wonderful time. Here's the hard time. If you want to know where hell is, you're in it. The death is a nothing. It's just going back and saying, okay, let's see how it's like this is like a business trip. Whereas you plan out what you're going to do, you go on the trip, you deal with things that are that come up that aren't exactly as planned, and then you go back and you analyze what happened on the trip, and that's what you're doing here. This is a little harder trip, but it's that's what it is. When you die, it's still you. It's still you having, doing what you want to do, and it's not nearly as hard. This is the hard part. Dying is not hard. Matter of fact, you plan your death. You plan it when you do your pre-life plan. Now you have options, and and depending on the type of life that you live, you might have, you might die, doing this, or you might die early, you might die middle of life, might die late. It all depends on the options that you chose. But you plan your death. The spiritual world knows when you're going to die, knows how you're going to die. But most likely, I mean, it's not guaranteed because we have free will. But death is nothing to worry about. And that's a big thing that I think you can get out of our eternal existence is death is really not much of it's matter of fact, it's a relief. You're finally, you've done all the hard work. Now you go back and analyze it and see how it went.
What about those who say that things like ghosts are stuck here? They haven't gone to the light. They haven't found where they're supposed to go for eternity yet.
Yeah. Well, it's not for eternity yet, but you're right. And that can happen. And what happens, and it doesn't happen to very many people, but there are people that are so focused on the physical plane that they can't change when they die. They either don't know they died, they're so focused, or they can't change their focus to the astral plane. So what do? They lose their body, obviously. So they're not on our level. We're in the physical plane, and there's 7 different levels within the physical plane. And every one of the planes has different levels. And we're on the 4th. And if you die, your consciousness, and if you can't refocus on the astral plane, again, it's unusual, you can end up, your aura, which is your ephemeral body. We have multiple bodies. We have an astral body, we have a causal body, we have a physical body, obviously. Well, we have an ephemeral body, which is our aura. And that body goes to the 6th or 7th level. And they can't do anything physically here, but psychologically they can. And every once in a while you can see them, just like you can see somebody's aura every once in a while. And they're not here permanently. And but sooner or later, the spiritual world is able to get their attention and get them refocused. But for a while they're here, and all you have to do to keep them from bothering you is to say, you have to go in peace, but be firm, because they know that you're stronger than they are, mentally, and they won't bother you. The only way they can cause you trouble is if you let them, if you allow them to psychologically put fear into you, then if they're devious types, and most of them aren't, but if they are, then they can give you a hard time psychologically. But it's because you let them. They don't have any power over you unless you give it to them. But yeah, the apparitions, that they exist. Yeah, they do.
Okay, so if that's the case, then where do dreams come into play here? Because, I mean, there's a lot of nightmares that happen in dreams. There's a lot of astral travel that happen in dreams. There's the old adage that you never leave your body too far because another soul may jump into your skin suit and change you who you are.
All right. Well, that was a bunch of questions that you just threw out at me. So let me go back to, and let me just start with dreams. What dreams are is we have within us the egos from our past lives. And those egos, when you die, you haven't resolved all the issues in your life. Nobody has. So there are still issues that need to be dealt with. So we have an inner conscious, call it your soul. And that inner conscious, that soul, is trying to resolve your problems. So what it does at night is it creates these dreams in another reality, and we won't get into that because that's a deeper subject. I do talk about it in the book, our eternal existence. But what it is it's solving old problems, and these problems might have been 5-10 lives ago that the inner conscious is trying to resolve. So for you to try to understand what those dreams mean is extremely difficult, because if that dream, if the ego that was living in that dream, the incarnation, was 1,000 years ago, what they consider a symbol, meaning something like fire, for example, might have a totally different meaning than fire to you. And this is a very simple example. I mean, you might think a fire is, some place that you can cozy up with your honey in front of a fireplace. Their house might have burned down. So fire might be fear to them. So the symbols are different. So it's very difficult to interpret those dreams. However, if you tell your subconscious that you want a problem solved, it will solve it for you. It will go and resolve it and decide what is the best solution, and then through intuition, it'll come your way. So dreams are extremely important. Matter of fact, you probably couldn't live on this physical planet if you didn't dream, and everything dreams.
Okay, so what about nightmares?
Nightmares are when you're seeing a bad dream. I mean, some of these old problems that have to be dealt with are real problems, and all you see is a small part of that nightmare. That's all you see is a small part of the dream. Dreams last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, and then it goes on to another segment. But the dreams keep coming back until they're resolved. So that's what a nightmare is. It's a bad experience that's being worked out by your soul, your inner conscious.
Is it a reality?
Absolutely. It is every bit of a reality as the physical world is, because it's a psychological experience. And the only thing that counts is our psychological experiences. We look at the physical world, and it's full of symbols. And our body is a symbol. Our body is a symbol in the physical world of our soul. And everything that we look at is a symbol. So these symbols actually exist in the dream reality, and the dream reality is not our reality. It's not a space-time reality. It's, if you look at time doesn't really exist in a dream. And also, look how fast things change. I mean, a building can turn into a field simultaneously. Well, that's actually happening, but it's happening in another reality that you're able to focus on. When you're awake, you focus on the physical world. When you're asleep, your inner self will focus on the dream world, and actually, the inner self is working on that dream world even when you're awake, but you don't see it because you're focused here. And most of the time when you sleep, your ego is not focused on the dreams, but occasionally it does, and it's normally right, almost always when you're just waking up.
All right. Well, I have to ask you then, what is reality?
Reality is how you perceive the energy around you. And so we have our 5 outer senses, and those 5 outer senses perceive the energy, the physical energy around us. And quite frankly, when you go to the astral plane, you have a body, a vehicle, if you will, an astral body that is within you right now that perceives the astral plane, and all of these different fields or planes that I talked about, all 6 of them that we travel through, that none of them are real. The only thing that's real is the psychological reality of the Tao, of the universal conscious. So after you've gone through all of these realities, these illusions, you get back to what actual reality is. And there is a place for reality. But all of these illusions, which are set up for us to learn and have experiences, they're all illusions. None of them are real. They're just energy put in places, and then you have sensors that can sense that energy in that position, and that's what the reality is. So our reality is an illusion.
3 minutes ago, or 2 minutes ago, before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, author David Gaggin is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking about what is reality then. How do we know if we're in a matrix or not, living in that situation?
Well, you're in a matrix that you chose, so to speak, but you chose it. It's set up for you to have certain experiences. It's not it is sort of a matrix, but it's not like the Matrix show. It's this is for certain experiences that we chose, we decided that we wanted, and the we is our soul that chose it. And then our ego, which is part of our consciousness, part of our soul, said, fine, I'll go do that experience. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Doesn't sound like that to me, man. Sounds creepy.
Well, maybe it sounds creepy, but that's what the ego agreed to when it came down here. It thought this was a good idea. Trust me, when the hurricane ran over me last year, I was wondering what my ego had been up to. It didn't seem like a good idea.
Well, in the next half hour, David, we are going to get to some audience questions here because they are building up for you. And I want to make sure we get some audience participation in here. So I hope you don't mind because it's going to make the show a little bit fun. But you are doing great tonight for your first appearance on Spaced Out Radio. Very much appreciate having you here, as we have author and researcher David Gaggin here until the top of the hour. DavidGaggin.com is his website. That is where you can find his great book, Our Eternal Existence, a metaphysical perspective of reality. And man, we are all over the board tonight. I don't know if you're feeling the woo. I definitely am. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's what the woo is all about here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody, the next half hour right after this. This is a great show so far, Dave.
I'm glad you like it. I'm enjoying it.
Good. I'm glad you are too.
And I'm happy to take questions from the audience. No problem at all. Love it.
Well, we're going to do that next. You don't have a
Okay.
choice now.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all good, man. All good.
Yeah.
Hmm. You've calmed my nerves a little bit.
Believe me, Dave, you won't have any trouble with death. The problem with death is the people that get left behind. They're the ones that are suffering because they lose their loved one.
Well, it is selfish.
Yeah.
It is.
But you got to go. I mean, you can't, and a lot of times there's reasons that you go, and your soul knows why the other person left. You might not, but a lot of times they leave for a specific reason to help you.
I experienced that this year.
Oh, really?
Excuse me. Yeah.
Who'd you lose?
My mother.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Lost my mother. And hi, Zoria. How you doing? I was stuck in a drive-through heading to my mom's nursing home, and pulled out of the drive-through, went to another one to get my coffee for the morning, pull into the parking lot, and literally just hit stop on my engine, and my phone rings, and it's my sister saying Mom's gone. And I know why. I totally know why. I'm not even mad about it. I was mad because I quickly ran in, and there she was, gone, and I threw my hat against the wall, and I'm like, you idiot, you missed this by a few minutes. Like, what were you thinking? But then I realized that, number one, she didn't allow my dad to see her go, because my dad wouldn't have let her go. So she had to do it when my dad was gone. Number two, there is no way in hell that my mother would have passed away in front of my son. No way. And because he's the baby, and there's no way she would have allowed that. Number three, my sister lost her only child in 2018. And he was 29 years old. He passed away of a fentanyl overdose. And the day before my mother passed away, she was talking to my nephew in the room right in front of us. So my nephew was there from the other side, ready to take my mom home, wherever home is.
Yeah.
And so my sister, my eldest sister, never got to say goodbye to her son. And it was my eldest sister, knowing that my nephew was in the room on the other side to bring grandma across. It was my sister who was holding my mom's hand when she crossed.
Okay.
And so I can't be upset about that. I've tried, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Well,
have you tried to get in touch with her, Dave?
She's not ready yet.
Okay. Okay.
I know she's in my dad's, in my mom and dad's house. Okay. I know that for a fact. She's really watching over my dad right now because my dad's having a tough time.
Okay. Okay.
So,
but you can, in time, you can talk to her, you can communicate with her, and now you're in a little bit more difficult situation because you're in a town of 100 people, and I don't know how many mediums are in your town. There may not be a lot.
I have access. I got access.
There you go. And you don't even have to be there. You can talk to them on the phone. You can communicate that way.
Oh, I'm when I'm ready, I'll try and reach out to Mom, but she'll let me know. I'm intuitive enough to know when she'll want to do that, if she will.
Okay.
So she hasn't reached out yet. I know why. And it's because of my father.
Okay.
That's why. Okay. But like the last time I was at my parents' house, could totally feel my mom's energy all over the
Oh,
place.
oh yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
that's the case. Yeah,
I mean, they were married 54 years, so.
yeah.
All right, bear with me here, my friend. Thank you to Louie, Jennifer, Kira, and Maggie for the super chats. Here we go, everybody. Hard to believe we're already through halfway of this show tonight. It is cruising on by. That's why we love Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. So glad you are tuning us on in tonight. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network, from Spotify to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and everything in between. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. Right until the top of the hour, we have author David Gaggin, who has a great book out, Our Eternal Existence, a Metaphysical Perspective of Reality, which can be found on his website, davidgaggin.com. It's an interesting read about death, especially if you want to know what happens when you die. Oh, it's a good one. David, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
I've enjoyed it tremendously, Dave.
Let's get to some audience questions. Start with Major Lee here. Do bugs have an afterlife?
Everything has an afterlife. Bugs, everything. Bugs are just part of the evolutionary stage. You start out extremely small, and you work your way up much greater than we are. And bugs have an afterlife, just like everything else.
It's amazing how many religions out there say that that there is animals like dogs or cats or horses don't have spirit.
That's crazy.
Really is.
Yeah.
Really is.
I mean, all you got to do is look at your pet. You look at your pet, and your pet dog or pet cat. You just they have a spirit in them. They do.
Well, I always found it funny that if they don't, when my little dog Zero died a few years ago, and she died happy, she died eating a sandwich or a hot dog, to be honest.
All right.
But nonetheless, that night, I crawl into bed after the show, and I had to tell her to move over because she wouldn't let me in. I saw her underneath the blanket where she likes to be.
Okay, I believe it.
And then she disappeared. It was amazing. Amazing experience.
Yeah.
The demon wants to know, why do Hindus seem to have more reported experiences of reincarnation?
Because it's in their culture. Their culture accepts reincarnation. So here you would, in our culture, and I don't know what percentage, but if you're a Christian or Jewish these days, they poo-poo it. If you're into science and you're not into religion, science poo-poos it. Well, Hinduism and Buddhism, they accept it. So there's no more conditions, no more than any other place, but they're reported more in the religions that accept it.
All right, let's continue on here as we go to Stephen in the United Kingdom, who's asking, does life end when the body stops or continues with the spirit?
Continues with the spirit. Your existence goes on. The life of your body stops, but your existence, who you are, Dave Gaggin, Dave Scott, we go on as individuals eternally. We will always remember this life. and who we were and what we did in this life. We'll become much greater. We'll become other beings, just like we were a child and we're not the child anymore. But existence goes on forever.
Yes. Even if it does take you way out deep in space. Let us go over to the demon again. Then are we eternal life beings?
Yeah, we're eternal beings. We're eternal beings. And we've been around for an incredibly long period of time before we showed up at this life. An incredibly long period of time.
Okay. All right. Where are the souls stored? Are they stored in a heaven? Are they stored somewhere until that time?
No, they are in the psychological realm, and the psychological realm has created a number of realities, illusions, and the one we're living in is one of them. And so it's in our soul right now is in the astral plane. That's where it exists, but it will travel and it will go to other places. But it's not a matter of being stored. It's a matter of being active, doing other things, learning other things. You don't get stored. You just there's many things that you do and learn when you're not here having a earth experience.
So what are we doing in the meantime and in between time?
Well, when you die, you you visit your family and friends that have already passed over, and you have a life review. And what you get to do is you get to experience how you made other people feel. And so if you had a good life and you were making people feel good, then that's a pleasant experience. If you were a fairly unpleasant person, then you'll get to feel how you made other people feel. Then you get a chance to relax and try to rest up, especially if you've had a tough life. You might, as I mentioned earlier, travel around the universe, visit other cultures, go fishing. It's an illusion, so you can create a lake and go fishing and do anything you want. And then you have a life analysis, and that's much more difficult, because what you do with the life analysis, you get to see why your life was what it was, and you get to see the decisions that you made and how they caused things to happen in your life. And if as you go through and you say, okay, I had a problem here, and then they'll say, okay, but if you made this decision instead, here's what would have happened. So you go through your entire life and you realize that you created everything that happened to you. You were the sole reason why everything happened. And so after you go through that process, then you can travel around if you want, or pretty soon you get drawn back in to creating another life. And then what you do is you plan out, you do a pre-plan for your next incarnation. And that's a complicated situation in itself.
Wow. All right, let's continue on with some audience questions here. Lightwalkers wants to know, how and who is able to access the Akashic records?
The Akashic records are, there's an Akashic field, and it's between frequency-wise, and all of these fields are just different frequencies and densities and intensities. It's between the causal field and the mental field. And to really access those, you learn how to access those when you're traveling through the the various other realities. So that's one of the big things you're doing when you're in the causal field, is you're trying to learn how to get at those records and understand them. However, within every one of us, there is basic data, which is the memory of what we've done in this life, is within us. And so when somebody down here thinks that they're going into the Akashic records, what they're really doing is they're able to go into your records inside you and find out some of the things that have gone on in your life. But it's very difficult to reach the Akashic records of in the Akashic field. Now, I'm not saying nobody can do it. I think Edgar Casey had that capability, and somehow or other he was able to tap into his soul that helped him do that, and his essence, his upper spirit. But it's not easy to get into those records.
Definitely not. Okay, let us continue on here and go to Big J. Do you have any remedies for generational curses?
Generational curses. No, I don't have any remedies for generational curses. I think the best thing to do is not focus on them. If you focus on a curse or what you think is a curse, you will draw it to you. You will pull it in. If you do not think about it and you do not worry about it, it won't do you any harm because it won't be attached to you. So if you could get it out of your mind, and that's not an easy thing to do. Matter of fact, changing your beliefs is one of the most difficult things you could possibly do. But if you believe the same thing when you die that you believed when you were born, you didn't evolve very far. So the key with these things is don't buy into it that it has to be something that is going to affect you. As soon as you think it is, then you'll attract it to you.
Let's continue on with Stephen over in the UK. Where does the spirit wait while it's deciding what to come back as?
In the astral field, the spirit, it does what I was going through telling you about. But that's where it is. It's in the astral field, and we just go back and forth from the astral to the physical until we're done doing the reincarnations. You there, Dave?
I am. Sorry.
Okay.
Major Lee has a question here. How do you define sentient life?
It's when you have reached the level of being able to reason. So when we're sentient because being human. Well, I'll tell you, cetaceans, which are the whales and the dolphins, have a reasoning capability as well. But that's basically what it is. Before that, you have a group, or right below it is a hive soul, and you really don't have responsibility for your actions and thoughts. So that's really what it is. When you've got the capability to reason, and then you're hooked on responsibility too.
Okay, continuing on, and let's see, we've asked that one. Let's go to this one from Lee. Will I see my dogs in the afterlife, and will they see me?
Absolutely.
It's kind of a cool question.
Yeah, but absolutely. Yeah. And you'll be able to communicate with them then too, because you communicate telepathically. So you can talk to them, and they can tell you how they felt about your, being your pet.
My one deceased dog, actually, on a spiritual quest that I was on, actually appeared to me and showed me an image of a sunset with me fly fishing, standing in the lake, and him sitting on the sand waiting for me. Because my dog used to love to go fishing.
Yeah. There. Yeah, exactly. So they he showed you an image telepathically. Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Toe Tag would like to know, what's the difference between the soul and spirit?
Well, it's how I define it. In my view, I define it in our eternal existence as the lower level of the spirit. The spirit is a larger entity, and it might have multiple souls that it has going on at any one time. So the soul, I consider the soul dedicated to the personality, but it's a definition. You just keep going up. Then there's a greater spirit that our spirit is involved with, and probably used to be our spirit used to be a soul or a personality even of a higher entity, and then that higher entity is part of another higher entity and goes all the way up to the top of the Tao, to the God, if you will, or universal consciousness.
Okay, let's continue on here. Let's go to Aaron. Can our spirits travel through time while we sleep?
Yeah, that's a tricky question, because time doesn't really exist outside of our reality, and that's a hard one for me to explain in a short period of time. And we end the rest of the show with me trying to. But yes, the answer is yes. And our spirits can travel to other places. We can go to the astral plane. We can go other places too when we sleep.
Yeah, I mean, do you consider that astral travel, or do you consider that an out of body experience?
I consider it the same thing. One and the other are the same thing.
Yeah, it's a little
except that out of body experience, you don't have to go to the astral plane. You can go other places. You can go around. You can go to China, or you could go to the moon or something, or Jupiter. But you can go. So if you go to the astral plane, it's an out of body experience.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Cold Filtered. Do you know what the astral field looks like? Have you ever been there?
I've never been there. It's an illusion, and it looks like what you want it to look like. And you have more power there to make it appear like you want it to appear. So if you want it to look like a fishing village, then it'll look like a fishing village for you. While you need it to look like a fishing village. It's an illusion.
Okay, let's go to Dope Diva. How do you know if there's a spirit in your home then?
Well, there probably are spirits in your home. You just don't notice them. If it was an apparition, you might know. But I think there's spirits all over us. I mean, all of these different fields are co-located, so you don't really go anywhere when you go into the astral field. That's why it's so easy to communicate with people, after they've died, because they really haven't gone anywhere. They're physically co-located with us. There's probably a lot of spirits around. They don't have any interface with us.
Oh, I agree. And I look at my area here. I mean, everything seems haunted. I talk to even new people who move in to our area, and I'm like, how haunted's your house? And they're like, well, we've never lived in a haunted house before, and yet here we are. I I don't know what it is about my community, but it all seems haunted.
Okay.
It really
is.
does.
Yeah.
It really does. Okay, let us go to another question here. Hold on. Let's go to Rain. Do we get to heaven at some point?
Heaven doesn't really exist. There is no such thing as heaven, depending on how you want to define it. Heaven is defined by Christianity primarily as this place you go and you sit and you're with God and such. Well, the fact of the matter is you're part of God. You're a low part, but you are part of it, and you're always trying to grow and to do more. So if you want to call when you're with the Tao, and you're done with the cycle through all of these realms, the illusions, you want to call that heaven, fine, but you're busy there too. You're saying, okay, well, what am I going to do next? Let's go plan something out. Let's, heaven is all how you want to define it. but there is no such thing as hell. If there's a hell, the closest thing to hell is what you're living right now. And you chose it, and you're not being punished. You've chosen to learn from and have these experiences.
All right. Continuing on here, there's another question from Rain coming in. Can we talk with our deceased loved ones if their soul has reincarnated? Good question.
You can talk with them if you can do, if you could do out of body experiences. You could talk to their soul, which hasn't reincarnated. The only thing that reincarnates is your personality. So the soul is still back, and the chances of that soul using the same ego or part of the consciousness is not high. So yeah, if you were doing out of body experiences and such like that, you could get in touch with them.
Right on. Right on. Okay. I think we're pretty much wrapped up for questions for right now. And we got about 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. It has been a trippy experience having this conversation with you. Do you plan when you die to come back and become a ghost for a while, or what's your plans?
No, my plan is not to become a ghost. I plan to focus on the next experience. You know, you can find out how far you are along, and we have 5 different stages that we go through. Ages: infant, baby, young, mature, and old. And in each stage, you have 7 different levels that you go to. So I am told by the entity Michael that I'm at an old 3. So that means I have to come back for at least 4 more lives. And some of those stages might take a couple lives. So I plan to come back. I don't know what I plan to do. My soul will probably make most of that decision. But we'll just kind of see what comes out. But I don't have any particular plans on what I'm going to do. I probably have some karma I got to take care of. So I'll have to.
Well, I think we all have some karma we need to take care of.
Exactly.
That is for sure. But it has been an educational night with you here tonight. And do me a favor in the next 90 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your books and if you have any appearances coming up.
Okay. The book is Our Eternal Existence. It will be released in the UK on November 24th. It will be released in the US on December 1st. You can go to Amazon and you can buy it. You could order it ahead of time and it will show up. You can pre-order it and it will show up on the day that it's supposed to be released. And you can find me on again. My name is Gaggin, Gaggin, David Gaggin, davidgaggin.com, and you can see the book there. As far as appearances, I run a metaphysical group here in Sanibel, and it's down a little island off of Fort Myers in Florida. And I'd be happy if anybody's around here. It's a Sanibel Metaphysical Meetup Group. Love to have you. Love to see you. I try to do those things probably only every other month by the time I get around to all these other things that I'm doing. But I'd love to see you in person. And I hope you like the book. And I also have another book, The Endless Journey, which is a preliminary book to this. If you're just getting involved in that.
Dave, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We very much appreciate it.
Thank
Steve
you.
from Among the Missing is next. Then right after that, Courtney Marcashani is here with the UFO Report. Great job, Dave. Great job.
Thank you, Dave.
I hope you had fun, my friend.
I had a lot of fun. I always say, this is my favorite subject, obviously. So, and you had a lot of questions, good questions, and I think it was a fun thing. I think we got a lot of information off to the listeners. So I worked out well.
Quick 2 hours, my man. Quick 2 hours.
It did go quick, didn't it?
All right, my friend. I will let you go.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Dave. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to step away for a quick second. We'll be right back. Do, do, do. Doug Shelby is safe. The Doug Shelby is safe. All right. That was a good show so far. Stephen, thank you. Growing it myself. We got 30 seconds. Big thank you tonight to Rain, T-Bone, Maggie, Kira, Jennifer, and Louie for the super chats. Thank you for the love, guys. Very much appreciate it.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Railophone. Railophone is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing.
The three women stepped on a moss-covered rock and moved closer to the cliff's edge to pick a wisp of overhanging grass. As the others shouted a warning, the Pohono grabbed her and threw her onto the rocks below. She looked at her peers with a face full of terror, and in the next moment, she was gone. The two remaining women hurried down the steep path to inform the others about the tragic event at the cliff's edge. They searched for the missing woman until nightfall, but found no trace of her. According to the legend, the woman's spirit joined Pohono and would not rest until another victim met their doom. Since then, the Awanichi hurried past the waterfall, and no one would sleep within sight of it, out of fear of being swept away to a spirit land of torture and unrest. Tenaya Canyon. Tenaya Lake was named after Chief Tenaya, the last Native American chief in Yosemite. In the 1850s, a group of armed settlers tried to force Chief Tenaya and his tribe out of the valley and relocate them to a reservation near Fresno. During the conflict, the chief's son was slain, which enraged him and led him to condemn the battalion captain and all settlers who tried to enter the canyon. Even John Muir, who is considered the father of national parks, experienced the curse's fury when he was knocked unconscious after experiencing a dangerous fall. The canyon has been the site of numerous rescues, leading park rangers to dub it the Bermuda Triangle of Yosemite. In an email statement to SF Gate, Yosemite spokesperson Scott Gaggin wrote, Yosemite National Park officials acknowledge the stories and legends surrounding Tenaya Canyon. However, the park has no official position on them. The Ghost of Grouse Lake. In 1867, Galen Clark became the first civilian guardian of Yosemite National Park and patrolled the park for 2 decades. During September 1857, Clark took a walk to Grouse Lake, an alpine lake located 8 miles from present-day site of Wawona. While resting by the shore, he heard a distinct wailing cry, similar to that of a lost canine. Clark joined a group of Native Americans at their hunting camp that night to inquire about the wailing sound he had heard. They advised him that it was not a dog, but the spirit of a young boy who had drowned in the lake. The tribe urged him not to go near the lake or risk being caught by the legs and pulled under to his demise by the spirit of the deceased boy. Where is Elmer? The following tale is presented in a National Park Service blog post by a Yosemite Park Ranger known as AR. AR states that one of the more modern and bizarre questions asked in Yosemite Valley today is, where is Elmer? Yosemite campers have been haunted by voices echoing through the campgrounds, calling out for Elmer since at least the 1930s. Elmer is a mysterious phenomenon typically observed during summer nights. Its origins remain unconfirmed, and the National Park Service has not officially endorsed it. According to AR, when someone calls out for Elmer, it is usually an adult male hoping to elicit a response from another camper. This call is often answered by someone using the same loud and unpleasant tone of voice. Soon, a group of children join in, seemingly coerced into participating by social pressure or some primitive human instinct. AR says when children are asked why they yell Elmer, most would respond, because everyone else was doing it. On the other hand, the person who started the whole thing would say, because we used to do it all the time when I was a kid. In 1961, Louis G. Karcher, a park ranger, attempted to explain the phenomenon known as Elmer in an article he wrote for Yosemite Nature Notes. According to Ranger Karcher, some campers believed that Elmer was a bear that frequently visited the campgrounds in search of food. Others speculated that the children in the campground were fond of the elusive creature and named it Elmer. However, neither Ranger Karcher nor AR found these explanations convincing.
And thank you to Steve Stockton for coming on in for another great edition of Among the Missing. You can find Steve's stories by going to youtube.com/Among the Missing and hit subscribe while you're there. It works. It truly does. Why not? All right. We were going to have the UFO report with our new lady, Courtney Marcassani, but she is having some internet problems tonight, which is sad because Courtney is going to be joining us on filling in for Tib Senor, who is going to be focusing more on his movies and television shows that he's going to be working on here over the next number of months. So Courtney will be joining us very, very soon, just not tonight, I don't think. So I'm still going to play the theme song because we need it for the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Well, we're going to start off over in Washington, D.C., because there are critical concerns arising over the U.S. government's UFO office amid uncertainty surrounding its director's future. And this is by Christopher Sharp from Liberation Times. The U.S. government's unidentified anomalous phenomenon office was established with the aim of ensuring transparency for the public. However, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, otherwise known as AARO, now grapples with an increasing number of accusations related to concealment. If its purpose was solely to enhance public perception, it appears to have fallen short. Oh, yeah. Oh, here we go. The AARO's second annual report, unveiled in October, was initially leaked to Defense Scoop, and additional insights, along with executive exclusive comments from Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, that were shared with CNN. Of note, Defense Scoop was given the exclusive scoop on Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks assuming direct oversight over AARO in August 2023. While this past week, many defense reporters, including a correspondent from Defense Scoop, were extended an invitation to pose questions to Dr. Kirkpatrick. This invitation followed the introduction of the new secure reporting feature on its website, implemented through Google Forms. Liberation Times inquired with the Department of Defense about why Defense Scoop received the AARO's written recent report ahead of all other publications. Spokesperson Susan Goff provided the following response: "I have nothing for you." This all seems to indicate a new media strategy being implemented by the DoD following Hicks's newly mandated oversight role as stipulated by National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023. The DoD has become more assertive with its media strategy, although remains relatively tight-lipped in commenting on the challenges encountered by the U.S. military in their interactions with mysterious objects wielding apparent air superiority. So, commenting to the Daily Mail before the release of AARO's delayed first report, one anonymous intelligence source stated they're patting themselves on the back that they've resolved over half of them, but we don't give a crap about the ones they've resolved. Yeah, there's balloons up there, and balloons are sometimes mistaken for UAP, but there are crap loads of classified videos that are pretty profound and pretty clear. They don't want to talk about this stuff because they really, really don't know what the hell they are. That's the truth. The strategy, which centers on emphasizing cases that could be resolved, is evident in the AARO's most recent report, a case closure report featuring its appendices references a sighting over the Western USA reported by military personnel, which was evaluated by the AARO as a commercial aircraft traveling on a well-established air corridor. And the UAP office has also committed to disclosing another successful resolved case in the upcoming months. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Okay, so where is this all going? Well, Susan Goff again informed the Times. Previously reported transmedium object has been resolved, and the case details are being prepared for public release. Now, let me pause here for a second. The one thing that we do know is the word transparency is thrown around a lot over a little bit of time here. You know, we hear the politicians going through all of these UFO worlds and stories saying that they are committed to the transparent acts of bringing the story to you. The public has a right to know. Do they really, though? Do they really? Because everything seems to be behind closed doors. And it should come as no surprise that AARO is not playing the transparent card game. This isn't Uno here, okay? No, it isn't canasta or cribbage or gin rummy. They're not being transparent with their cards at all. And there's a reason for that. The reason why is that they are clear as mud. And that is because they know a lot of this technology that might be being seen could be American. And there is something that U.S. government contractors don't want, and that is the public to see their own toys. Add to the fact that they don't want this story out much longer. They don't. They're tired of it. It's the rebellious types like David Grush, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Jay Stratton, and others who just do not want to let it go away. That's the tough part. Let's continue with the story here. The nature remains unclear, and Liberation Times has requested additional information. The most prominent transmedium incidents on record involve UAP that seemingly enter bodies of water. One such event occurred in 2019 when the USS Omaha documented such an occurrence, and another instance took place in 2013 in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, an event filmed by U.S. Border Customs agents on protection aircraft. The Arrow's latest report does offer a glimpse into some challenges the U.S. military faces, though. There are some cases where reported UAP have potentially exhibited one or more concerning performance characteristics, such as high-speed travel or unusual maneuverability. Something the Arrow is less than enthusiastic about talking about is apparently active jamming from UAP. There have been many reports relating to this subject, actively jamming military aircraft, a hostile act if such craft are adversarial. In 1976, an Iranian military pilot reported losing all instruments and communications when approaching a UAP. Let's call it a UFO. Let's get rid of this UAP crap. In 2004, the U.S. military approached a Tic Tac UFO over the Pacific Ocean. The object appeared to be jamming the aircraft's APG-73 radar. Earlier this year, United States Air Force pilot stationed in Florida's Elgin Air Force Base reported that his sensor system suddenly malfunctioned as his aircraft approached a UFO over the Gulf of Mexico, and it sparked concern. Representative Matt Gaetz, who met with the pilot, stated when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR infrared camera system malfunctioned, and then he had to manually take this image from one of his lenses. In February of this year, U.S. Air Force pilots engaged UAP. See, this is the difference. This is why I focus on a difference between UAP and UFO. Because in February, U.S. Air Force pilots did not engage in UFOs. They were unidentified aerial phenomena that were man-made. Okay? They were man-made from China. That's already been confirmed. Okay? And apparently one of the objects interfered with the jet's sensors. Well, guess what? Technology can do that. However, such concerns are not included in the Arrow report. Commenting to the Times, Susan Go explained, so far we have not found any verifiable evidence that any UAP have actively interfered with our sensors. Regarding the Gulf of Mexico incident, she added, the U.S. Air Force and pilot also reported that this particular test aircraft had fuses blow on those sensor systems 3 times in the past year. Notwithstanding this claim, the recurring pattern of behavior strongly hints of active radar jamming. Reflecting on jamming activities carried out by the Chinese military over the South China Sea in 2018, a pilot operating an EA-18 Growler, which is the U.S. Navy's electronic attack variant of the F-18, she said, the mere fact that some of your equipment is not working is already an indication that someone is trying to jam you. Exactly. Notice how all of a sudden UAP come from China? See how that works? UAP don't come from space. That's UFO. UAP come from Earth. The aircraft involved in the Gulf of Mexico incident was part of the United States Air Force. There have been persistent accusations that the USAF have been hesitant to collaborate in investigations. While the event over the Gulf of Mexico made its way into the latest Arrow report, likely due to public scrutiny, there are signs that full cooperation from the U.S. Air Force may not have been readily forthcoming. No kidding. The Air Force already stated that they were not going to participate in this UFO game. Come on, Chris, you know better than that. Anyways, what do you think? What do you think about this topic? I'm curious. If you're in our chat room, let us know. I'm very curious what you think. See, this is where we get a little confused. We throw around this term UAP so much that it doesn't make sense. And that's exactly what the government wants you to think. The more confused that you are, that I am, and many others are, by standing up to this UAP crap, it actually exposes us to everything that they don't want us to see. Or pardon me, that they want us to see and believe. That's the troublesome part. All right, that is the troublesome part of this entire subject, is confusion. Because just reading this report, I'm confused what a UAP and a UFO is, and I've been able to define the difference of it. It's very easy. UAPs are man-made, UFOs are not. And why are we still bringing up the Chinese incident with the balloons and the drones? Those aren't UAP. Pardon me, they would be UAP if you don't know what they are. Man-made objects. If we don't start defining the difference between the two, this is where we get into trouble on a constant basis. This is where we don't know what we're talking about. And that's what they want. They don't want us knowing what they're talking about. They don't want to help us advance the subject. It creates the false narrative that was created years ago. Because here's the thing. I want to point this out to you. I haven't pointed this out to you yet. Remember what David Grush said? We have the craft and we have the pilots. Anybody notice when they talk UAP, there's never any pilots? It's always technology. It's amazing how that works. It's amazing how when the drones and the balloons came out in February, how they were quick to say this isn't UFOs. The narrative going back to the Stars Academy was this. I was told this by an insider. The public is ready for UFOs or UAP. They are not ready for who's piloting them. And that's a concern. Because aliens have not really entered the investigation yet. They've been hinted at, thank you, David Grush, and a few others. But they have never, ever been brought into the conversation. Why? Because we're not mature enough to know about this yet. We are definitely not mature enough. And that's where the problem lies. So, I know it's hard, guys. I know it's hard, and you hear me griping and moaning about this UAP versus UFO study here on a nightly basis. But I'm just trying to prove to you guys that there are people out there getting mixed up over this, and that's exactly what they want. They want that confusion. They want those UAPs to screw you up, to screw me up, to screw up every other podcast and radio host out there. That's what they want. Oh, yeah, that's what they want. We are going to continue the UFO report when we return. And if you're in our chat room, I want your questions too. You bring them up, I'll answer them best I can. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned. I want your questions, people, for when we come back on the air. I want your questions. Help me out here because I can't stand hearing myself talk for that long. Hi, Simon the Likeable. How you doing? It's the beard, Maggie. Poor Courtney. I know she was really looking forward to doing this tonight, too. She was pumped up to meet all you guys. And her internet goes down. No, there's no beard combs or mustache wax in the swag shop. Great question, Paramarv. We will get to that. Yeah, if you're in the northern hemisphere, start looking for the northern lights outside because they are dancing. They are dancing. She loves it, Mama Susan. I got your question already, Paramarv. Justin, no, I'm not going to be there. Define that question a little bit more majorly, if you don't mind. Because I think you're building on a good question there. Yeah, sure. Example it. All right, big thank you to Rain, T-Bone, Maggie, Kira, Jennifer, and Louie for the super chats. Very much appreciate you tuning in for your love and support of SOR. Means a lot. Thank you. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon from the SOR Space Travelers Club. We're continuing on with our good friend, myself, because that's who I am. I'm the one doing the UFO report tonight. Courtney Marcassani was going to join us, filling in for Tim Senor. She had internet problems. Yep, that's what happens when you live in Alaska. But we're going to continue on here. And there's an article out of Fox News that says the Defense Department has launched a new website last week to report government activity related to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, otherwise known as UFOs. Now, in addition to housing photos and videos of potential cases, the website offers those claiming firsthand knowledge of a U.S. government program activity related to UAP to submit the information to the government. The department is committed to transparency. There's that transparency word again. Notice how it keeps popping up. And with the American people on Arrow's work on UAPs, Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder said in August, when first announcing the website, also explaining that the site will serve as a one-stop shop for information that is publicly available. The site, arrow.mil. Here's the problem if you look at arrow.mil. Outside of the director's message and their mission statement has nothing to do with UFOs. They keep bringing up UAPs. If you haven't heard the definition of UAPs, here it is from the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, arrow.mil. It means an airborne object that is not immediately unidentifiable or identifiable. B, transmedium objects or devices. C, and submerged objects or devices that are not immediately identifiable and that display behavior or performance characteristics suggesting the objects or devices may be related to the objects or devices described in subparagraph A or B. The DoD considers UAP as sources of anomalous detection in one or more domains, airborne, seaborne, spaceborne, and or transmedium, that they are not yet attributable to known actors and that demonstrate behaviors that are not readily understood by sensors or observers. Anomalous detections include, but are not limited to, phenomena that demonstrates apparent capabilities or material that exceeds known performance envelopes. A UAP may consist of one or more unidentified anomalous objects and may persist over an extended period of time. What does that tell you? Confusing, isn't it? Very, very confusing. I don't really get it. Do you not think that we, as the public, deserve a definition between UAP and UFO? to use a stupid analogy, if you don't mind me using this, it's like you go to a restaurant and you say, I'll have a salad. Do you want a Caesar salad? No, I'll have a salad. You know what I'm talking about. A salad. Well, is that a corn cob salad? No, I just want a salad. Greek salad? No, just want a salad. Is that with iceberg lettuce? I just want a salad. Do you want one of those hippie ones that has dandelion leaves in it? And quinoa and kale? Yes, I know it's quinoa, not quinoa. No, I just want a salad, for God's sakes. What's the difference? Salad? UAP? What is the definition of a UFO? Can't be the same as a UAP if UAP covers everything. I think we need to make a UAP salad t-shirt for our store. Just seems the way that it is. Let's continue with this story. We are exploring methods for how the public can do so in the forthcoming third phase of the secure reporting mechanism, said Sean Kirkpatrick, of all the sightings. I do also like to take this opportunity to strongly encourage any current or former U.S. government employees, military or civilian, or contractors who believe they have firsthand knowledge of a U.S. government UAP program or activity to please come forward using this new secure reporting mechanism. Kirkpatrick reported, "We want to hear from you. Sensitive or classified information should not be included in the form," explaining it is meant as an initial point of contact with his office. When asked about whistleblowers and anyone who wants to come forward, present their case and make their statement for the record, Kirkpatrick said that operational reporting is different. That is, pilots flying around and sees something in his airspace and he needs to report it. That goes through operational channels. Other prominent advocates for UAP witnesses to have a safe pipeline for reporting of a sighting include, who guessed it, Ryan Graves, the executive director of Americans for Safe Aerospace. Doesn't that sound like a company who would like some government budget? Previously launched a project to support commercial aircrew and military UAP witnesses who want to share their accounts of encounters with UAPs. Great. What's a UAP? Ryan, what is a UAP? Graves emphasized to Fox News Digital that there is no organized process for UAP witnesses and whistleblowers to apply to testify before Congress. So if you're someone in the public, perhaps a veteran that has had experiences that they've witnessed and you don't understand the process, there really is no services available right now. Of course there isn't. It's about mass confusion. That's what it's all about. It's about mass confusion regarding the subject. Remember, they want us to be naked to the fact that they know what's going on and we don't. And to start that, you have to define the sightings. And remember, groups like Ryan Graves' group there, they want some government money on this, people. That's what we call disclosure for dollars. That's where they are swimming in the pond like sharks, waiting for the money to enter the pool. And the fact that Arrow says there was no program before, there's always been a reporting program. That is a lie. Going back to when the FAA actually had a reporting number and email and address to who else but Robert Bigelow and his team at BASS, Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Space Systems. They were the ones taking the reports. So to say this hasn't happened before is contrary to the truth. There seems to be a lot of contrary that surrounds Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. There really does. We got contrary to nobody reports it to anywhere else. Come to us. We're not transparent, but we're going to treat you as such because we know how to pronounce the word. Then, I think they get contrary and transparency somehow mixed up. I really do. Because it makes no sense. It really doesn't. And I hope I'm taking the time to educate you, the great public, enough about seeing the difference between UFO and UAP. Because we are getting screwed here. Always ends up with everybody or somebody getting screwed. Let us move on. Take some audience questions here. Let us go to Paramarv, who's asking, have anyone heard of the government has acknowledged where the biologicals are now? No, they are trying to move that away from that statement of David Grush's as much as possible. That was a dangerous comment. See, every now and again, what happens here is when somebody like David Grush fires off a salvo like that nobody's ever heard, okay, that we have biological bodies of the pilots. They gauge the public reaction and what the public says on that. Okay, remember, David Grush is under major NDAs of what he can and cannot say. Okay, his NDAs only allow him to go so far. However, when you are in those types of positions, your higher-ups give you the ability to say something else if you want. Just to throw a little bit of spice on it. So they may all of a sudden say, hey, Dave, we want you to talk about the biological pilots. Throw that out there. Then they gauge the public reaction to that. If there's a lot of public reaction, they may add more information. If there's little to no public reaction, which there wasn't when it came to this, which is weird, okay, then they kind of forget about it. They do. They try and push the topic away as quickly as possible. Okay. The CIA and government agencies use a lot of celebrities for Twitter like this, especially influencers these days. They do. Throw them a subject, throw them some cash, put a tweet out, see where it goes, and follow who's following. That part is true. Okay, so have they acknowledged the biologicals where they are? No, they never will. My personal belief in that, Paramarv, is that any biological entity is not in the hands of the U.S. government. I believe that if they have any bodies stored, it is with a privatized company that is not under any sort of FOIA request. Now, whether the bodies are fully intact or mangled from crash retrievals, we don't know. We really don't know. But I'm sure they're in a formaldehyde test tube somewhere if they're deceased, hiding right in the middle of nowhere or right in front of our faces, and we don't even realize it. We don't even realize it. All right. Let us move on to another question here. This one goes to Simon. Any news on the jetpack miner story? There is a little bit of news. There's a photograph that has come out, and it's being passed around circles recently. I haven't seen it on social media yet, but I've had two different sources send it to me, which is of an alleged mantid-looking alien gray standing about 8 to 10 feet tall behind one of the huts of peoples in these small Peruvian communities. And it's standing there. It is glowing white. Now, whether or not, and this is the trouble we have now, people, whether or not that's a CGI photo that's being passed around, whether it's a CGI or an AI photo that has been created to look like a being that's been seen down there, or whether it is for real a photograph, we do not know. We don't. It seems to match what the people are saying they are seeing down there. But whether or not that's exactly what they're seeing, we have no clue. We have no clue whatsoever. It's interesting, isn't it? So that is your update on Peru. Let's go to Nikki. In the U.S., we've had 80 to 90 years of government control and narrative over ufology, and now their version of UAP. How long do you believe it will take before the government state what's driving? 2 to 5 years? 15 to longer? Good question, Nikki. I think that it will be probably within 5 years that we get more into biologics. Maybe 10. The reason why they are taking their time, in my opinion, is that they have to make sure that they are not getting into any type of lawsuit whatsoever. They're going to make sure that information that is buried is still buried. Whether that's on daily communication, whether that's knowing that there are beings on the moon or Mars, whether that's personal bases that aliens may have right here on our planet. And it ain't out at 51, people, in Nevada. I can guarantee you that. I would say 2 to 5 years, because if things keep going the way they are, it's going to take that long to flush out into the media. That's the sad reality of it. All right, let's move on to Nikki's second question here. What will it actually take for the U.S. government to come out? They don't want to come out. They don't. There's too many secrets and too much money in the trillions that state everything to keep this under the rug. It's about people. It's about placement. It's about what do we do when we break that story that we are not alone in the universe. That's the trouble. You can't break that yet because they don't feel that the majority of the public is ready for it. You got to realize there's 330 million Americans around the world, mostly in the United States. How would they feel? How would you feel if you're American and you can't say anything because your own government won't allow you to? Let's go to Justin. What's my thoughts on ECETI Ranch? I think there's a lot of cool stuff that happens on James Gilliland's property. And if you have the opportunity, to make sure you go check it on out. Another question here from Derek. Dave, have you heard the ramblings that the Department of Defense is coming after David Grush? Oh, we've known that for a while. We've known that for the while since they figured out a way to demote him and his NDAs by trying to. You remember that whole scandal where he was apparently an alcoholic, saying a bunch of things after his friend decided to remove himself from life? And how he wanted to go too? That's where it gets scary. I think that there's big money behind David Grush now, and that would be the reason why a lot of government agencies are getting away from their threats towards him. We know that Jesse Michaels is his handler. We know Jesse Michaels has ties to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel has defense contracts protecting American computers from hackers from around the world. He also is a money donator to Enigma Labs. A lot going on with this, people. A lot going on that we have no idea. But we do, considering that nobody is talking about it. Isn't that interesting? Why doesn't anybody want to talk about it? That's the big question that we need to figure out here moving forward. Trying to cover it up. And we are better than that because we're not falling for it. We can't fall for it. We must fight for it. And their transparency that never seems to exist. Right? Hey, we made it through tonight's show. Very much proud that you were able to join us tonight as we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking us in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, formerly Twitter, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Woo, we made it. 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 That wore me out. That wore me out. Big thank you tonight to Louie, Jennifer, Kira, Maggie, T-Bone, Rain, and Shaq. Tomorrow night on the show, Geraldine Orozco will join us for the Spiritual You. And I'm going to go rest my voice here. That was a lot of talking for me this last hour. So I'm going to sign off here and say goodnight to all of you. Thank you for a wonderful time. And we'll get things going here, man. we'll get things tightened up here soon. Talk to you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.